Hello everybody. Today we're going to be starting this video off a wee bit different from the usual. We are going to be dissecting a scene from, you guessed it, The Beekeeper. Let's roll that segment. Alright, so we're going to be analyzing about a 45-second scene from The Beekeeper called He Cut Off Two Fingers. Alright, in case you want to look it up yourself. I'm not going to be showing the full clip here. We're just going to be watching the little tiny segments and then analyzing them. Alright, we're going to start with that first clip.
My fingers on my right hand. He cut them off.
As we see in the first clip, the person on the phone is calling and talking to the boss, right? And he says he cut off his finger, right? If we dissect that further, we know that David Ayer, the director of the film, is a huge fan of the John Wick series. So this is a reference to the John Wick series itself, as if he's paying homage to one of the juggernauts in the same action genre field that he is.
See, tell me who he is right now.
And in the second clip, we can see the quote from the boss saying, "Tell me who he is right now." Now this is a direct copy from Season 2, Episode 15 in Blue Blood, where they make the same statement while they're interrogating somebody. Now the follow-up to that statement is saying that his last name is Washington. Alright? And this is foreshadowing, oh, spoiler alert, this is foreshadowing deep into Beekeeper, as the boss's mom ends up being like the president of the United States working in Washington, D.C. So you can see like the really in-depth foreshadowing that they layered in this sophisticated movie.
You want crypto? NFTs? You want? I got NFT. What? No, don't give this, man.
So to break down like this third clip, Jason Statham is offered NFTs and crypto, and he acts like as if he doesn't care, or it seems like he truly even doesn't even know what they are or the true value that they do have. And I think this works as like a visual double entendre once we understand that, because we can see like the old beat up truck in the background of the scene, kind of showing like the new with the crypto and the NFTs with the new car, and the old being Jason Statham, or Statham. I'm going to mix those up, so we're just going to roll with it. But it shows like the old being mixed in with the new and the separation between them. As well as you can see like it's a bit of a classism thing, because they're not just a new car and old car. It's like a very cheap car that most people can afford, and then a newer car that most people can't afford. And it shows in like their living styles too, as he lives out of someone's shed in the movie, and this guy's making in millions of dollars. So it's a bit of a classism thing too, not showing kind of the understanding of crypto and NFTs among those that aren't wealthy and rich, and seeing how they can be worth money. And that is my breakdown of this scene from Beekeeper. Now, did that sound overly complicated for a movie? That's because it was. For a simple movie like Beekeeper, there was no layers to it. Especially anything I said. No layers whatsoever. And I'm going to show you how in just 15 minutes, and a little bit of research, and a little bit of bullshit, you can dissect anything you want. So, let's break it down. I know all of you are asking, how did you dissect that so well, Tenchi? And I'll tell you right now. Made a wheel. Spun the wheel. If you've been paying attention, you know what I got on the wheel. Then Googled the thing on the wheel, and then found the first movie where I kind of remember the plot lines and some other stuff, so I can make connections and claim foreshadowing and shit like that. Did that. Second, found the first scene of the movie on YouTube. Clicked on that. Watched it. It was like 45 seconds, and then they just threw the trailer on the back for some fucking reason. So watch that. Then I chose 3 distinct parts of that scene. First distinct part. It was just like a generic quote the boss said. So tell me who he is right now, or something like that. Then I used like a movie quote search engine that I didn't know existed. And it also does TV shows. And that's how I stumbled across the same line being used in Blue Blood, as well as it gives you like the line after and before and after. And so I used that line before where it said last name Washington, and then connected it with my memories of the movie. and claim it was foreshadowing. Second distinct part said he cut off his fingers. Well, what other movie cut off their fingers? I couldn't remember for the life of me, so I googled it, and John Wick. It happened in John Wick. And so I looked up the director's name. I saw an article where John Wick is also being talked about, and just said he liked the movie and he's paying homage to it. Which is possible to some extent. But then the third distinct one is my favorite, because it took a lot of imagination and all the brain cells working together to get the double entendre one. And I just used my dissecting side of my brain that dissects things with deeper layers to come to the conclusion I did about classism and new versus old and all that mumbo jumbo. So now we're going to be looking at other examples which are a little less stupid than mine, that overcomplicate things to a point where they're reaching for things that aren't even there. And the three main categories we're going to be looking at is TV and movies, music, and video games. And they're kind of going to be examples, kind of, sort of. You'll see when we get to video games that I couldn't really do that, and I'll explain why later. But for now, we're going to start off with TV and movies, with a game where I'm going to give you keywords and a couple phrases to try to see how a YouTuber tried to describe the hidden meaning of this movie, and then you just guess the movie name. Alright? So now we're going to run through the keywords and phrases. We got existentialism, absurdism, meaning of life, an abundance of freedom, and existence precedes essence. Now let's start that clock. I bet you little geniuses got it. That's right, the movie is Surf's Up. Oh, I have seen this movie before. I've seen it quite a few times as a kid. And as a kid movie, sure, it might have some deeper meaning, but while they were creating it, do you think that any of this was brought up? The absurdism, the different philosophies, the abundance of freedom? No, it wasn't. And I guess we can look at it and see like some life lessons we can take away, and maybe that's what they're trying to do, but it's not really all there. I think they're kind of reaching for air at that point. And that was the first example. Now let's get into the music. Now for music, I chose a channel I personally watch, even though I'm kind of critiquing this style of content, and that channel is Dissect Podcast. And so I pulled up one of their videos on Spotify, and I thought a funny one to look at, because I saw that they did the whole Yeezus album, would be looking at the Black Skinhead song. And I thought this one would be funny to try to see them explain, if they did, the 300 Roman part, where Kanye just mixed up Romans and Spartans. And so that's the transcript I'm going to put up right now, so you guys can read it through, digest it, and then we'll go through it together. Now, in my opinion, calling it a clever callback is insane, right? And you can go through, I've actually watched a couple of the podcasts now. I usually just watch like the YouTube shorts, but now I've seen a couple of the podcasts, and there are a few things where it's reaching pretty crazily, but it's still an entertaining watch if you want to give it a watch. And just a little bit to add, he also calls the 300 Romans, 300 bitches, 300 Trojans a double entendre, but it also, that whole bar doesn't mean anything, like at all. So like, yeah, Trojan could be a reference to the condoms, so he's sleeping with the 300 bitches. Unless you think he's shitting on the Trojans, calling the Trojans bitches, then maybe. But I personally don't think Kanye has problems with the Trojans. Now, the next one we're going to be getting into is going to be video games. And so the problem I found with this is that a lot of the stuff that I've seen personally are in like video essays, which I watch a lot of for video games and other forms of media. But they're only like one lines, and then a lot of the video essays are just padded with recaps of the story. So it was hard to find like a video or like a specific one, which I kind of found kind of hard So I kind of give up on that, but I did reference a few videos that overarchingly make my point, and this is gonna be like more philosophy stuff, even though it's not all philosophy. Some of it's just interpreting the art in different ways. But I couldn't find those with a game I played previously, and I didn't want to put something I didn't entirely know. And so I'm just going to reference a few videos here. Now I'm going to quickly run through these videos. Jak Daxter played it a bunch of times. The character study is not needed. The characters are not that in-depth. If anything, they're not one-dimensional, maybe two-dimensional. So you don't need 30 minutes to go over Jak Daxter. I watched the entirety of the video. Some of it's just a story recap, like I was talking about earlier, but this is not about the problem with some of the video essays, about other things. The Dark Souls, I don't think that they ever thought about even philosophy when making the game. Maybe they did, but I also don't think that it matters all that much. You can take your lessons away from it, but having a deep like philosophy study of it is, I believe, unnecessary. Now that kind of wraps everything up, and I guess the point I'm making is that there are certain forms of media, not forms of media, there are certain things in media that can be analyzed to these degrees, but I feel like a lot of the time they're just analyzing things that don't have the depth needed for this, and I don't think any of this whatsoever is a problem. I personally watch these videos. I keep them on as like background noise. They're usually long video essays, and in the final point, not everything needs an in-depth analysis. A lot of things it's not necessary for. Even for the things that it is necessary for, not every little thing means something almost 99% of the time. There are a few of those outliers, and there are a few things that deserve these long full-length videos, but not everything. So that's kind of it, guys. Thank you for joining me, and I'll check you guys out later. And you are all lucky fellows if you made it to the end of the video, because I have some bonus content for y'all. First, we're going to be looking at this post. As you can see, some guy photoshopped himself onto this picture of Chris Brown and posted it, and then he was blocked for it. Now we're going to be looking at the commenters. And this particular woman in the comments said that's really disrespectful. Even though it's funny, I don't know why you would block someone over this. It's just pretty funny. But then this woman goes on to then talk about how disrespectful it is and then defend the domestic violence charges by saying Rihanna already forgave him. So it's just another show of Chris Brown fans being Chris Brown fans. But now it's the end of the video. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll check y'all later.